This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. It's Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Former Trump fixer Michael Cohen takes the stand in the Donald Trump hush money trial.
So I'm all over that.
I'm John Stolnis.
Correspondent Donna Warder has the latest on how an Ohio police officer was killed in the line of duty.
Controlled explosions to help remove some of the Maryland bridge wreckage.
So it went as planned.
I'm Pamela Furr.
4 states are now dealing with unhealthy air due to out-of-control Canadian wildfires. We'll have those details.
The Dow coming off its first down day in 9 sessions, and is McDonald's doing a $5 value meal? I'm Jessica Ettinger.
President Biden is blocking a Chinese-backed cryptocurrency mining firm from owning land near a U.S. nuclear missile base. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
And what was in the museum curator's briefcase? All ahead on America in the Morning. 4 weeks into the trial, the jury finally got to hear from Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former lawyer and fixer, with audio recordings seeming to show the former president's involvement with hush money payments to at least 2 women. John Stolnis has more.
In his first day of testimony, Cohen made it clear his former boss not only knew of the payments made to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, but was at the center of and intimately involved with all aspects of how they would be paid out. Jurors heard a recording Cohen secretly made of a conversation he had with Trump in September of 2016.
I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
So what are we going to pay?
Funding. Yes. And it's all the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be.
Gets hit by a truck.
Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
Don't pay with cash.
No. I got.
In the audio, Trump can be heard confirming a $150,000 payout to McDougal through the shell company Cohen created to act as a buffer between Trump and the payout. Cohen also testified the motive behind the hush money was not to protect his marriage, but to hide the information from voters 2 months before the election. If jurors believe that's the case, Trump could be found guilty of multiple felonies. Trump had 2 Republican senators in the courtroom for the morning session as support. Vice presidential contender J.D. Vance attacking President Biden, claiming he's orchestrating the trial during an election year.
I just want to live in a reasonable country where we try to persuade voters in our politics. We don't try to throw our political opponents in jail. So this is a disgrace, and I wanted to be here to show some support for my friend.
And Senator Tommy Tuberville, who had some strong words for Cohen.
He's up there giving an acting scene. I mean, how can you be convinced by somebody that is a serial liar?
Cohen has pleaded guilty to federal charges related to the payments. Still under a gag order, Trump did not have anything to say about Cohen's testimony at the end of his first day on the witness stand, but once again read from numerous articles from conservative media decrying the unfairness of the trial.
He's a corrupt judge, and he's a conflicted judge, and he wouldn't let us go out and campaign and get rid of this scam.
Cohen will face a withering cross-examination by Trump's attorneys today. I'm John Stolnis.
More's being learned as to how a 23-year-old Euclid, Ohio police officer, a former member of the military who was on the job for just 10 months, was ambushed and gunned down in the line of duty, and how police were able to track down the suspect who first was wanted for violating terms of community supervision. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Police in the Cleveland suburb of Euclid say officers went to a home Saturday night after a woman reported that her child's father was threatening to harm her and her mother. They say the suspect, 24-year-old Deshaun Vaughn, opened fire on the officers in the backyard.
I go to bed every night hoping that I won't get this information. My heart absolutely breaks. He's 23 years old.
At a news conference carried by WEWS, Euclid Police Chief Scott Meyer says one officer, identified as Jacob Durbin, who was with the department less than a year, was hit and died at a hospital.
His kind heart and enormous smile were infectious. The world was a better place with him in it, and he will be desperately missed by all who knew him. U.S. Marshals say they were able to track down Vaughn at an apartment about 10 miles away in Shaker Heights, where there was a standoff.
The suspect was highly armed, from all the information we had, correct?
Yes.
Including what I believe was a possibly a MAC-10 machine gun. So heavily armed. We know he had a very violent history.
They say Vaughn later was found dead inside. They haven't said how he died. I'm Donna Warder.
And hazy conditions are blanketing parts of the U.S. and Canada. We'll have an update and tell you exactly why when America in the Morning returns after this. It's likely to be another wet and stormy day in some parts of the United States as you wake up on this Tuesday. Rainfall totals, though, are going to vary across the country. Meteorologist LaTroy Thornton narrows that down for us this morning.
A storm continues to take shape across the northern high plains through the day today, and it can be expected to cause showers for much of the day from mainly western and southern portions of Montana into northern Wyoming. However, much like we saw yesterday, the southern part of that developing disturbance is most likely to wait for the afternoon hours before turning more active, as a large area stands the chance of some spotty thunderstorm coverage that should include areas from the Sierra Nevada mountains of California to some of the high ground of south central Utah and Nevada, along with much of Colorado. The Pacific Northwest and much of the West Coast can instead expect a largely dry day today. By contrast, Tuesday means one more day with a chance for severe thunderstorms in parts of the southeast, as storms will be capable of producing damaging winds and hail, flooding downpours, and a few tornadoes from the eastern Gulf Coast through North Florida and northward into parts of southern Tennessee and mainly coastal South Carolina into this evening. This all comes as the latest major rain event winds down in the south, with rain expected through the early week period likely to total 4 to 8 inches for some, from East Texas to southern sections of Alabama and into the Florida Panhandle. Western parts of this zone may have a much-needed, largely dry day today as high pressure sets in from the southern plains to the Arklatex area. On the other hand, a separate storm located over the Midwest means showers and some thunderstorms from that region across much of the interior Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, with stray late-day storms popping up from New York State to northern sections of New England. In Burlington, Vermont, look for a cloudy Tuesday with showers and a thunderstorm and a high of 74. Albuquerque, New Mexico should have a hot day with sun and a high of 99. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Cleanup from the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore is now almost complete following a controlled explosion to help clear parts of that structure. Pamela Furr has the update.
Workers conducted a controlled explosion demolition of the largest remaining section, which was actually sitting on top of the cargo ship that crashed into the bridge in late March. Captain David O'Connell says it all came down in a matter of seconds.
So it went as planned in terms of separating into two pieces and some of the other pieces falling away from the ship. So I think we're in good shape. We're going to do an assessment tonight and tomorrow.
Now, these sections were too dangerous to cut up and haul away like other parts of the bridge. That's why it was determined a controlled demolition would be the way to go. Now, when some of the larger pieces of steel fell, a wall of water came toward the ship. Captain O'Connell says crews expected that.
They'll be removing water from the ship to make it lighter in preparation for it to be moved in the next couple of days.
Then tugboats will be able to reach the ship and tow it out of the river. By the way, the crew has not been allowed to leave the vessel since the disaster. Officials say they've been busy maintaining the ship. I'm Pamela Furr.
Hazy conditions blanketed parts of 4 U.S. states as wildfire smoke from Canada is drifting into the northern U.S. Canada has 146 active wildfires burning right now, including dozens in British Columbia and in Alberta, those being characterized as out of control, and authorities in some parts of those provinces ordering thousands of people to get out. Air quality indexes in Montana, in North and South Dakota, and Minnesota now ranging from moderate to unhealthy. Exposure to that type of particulate pollution can cause inflammation, even weaken the immune system. Fires have engulfed more than 24,000 acres in Western Canada. No signs of slowing down. And we'll take a look at your money and get your daily business report from Jessica Ettinger when America in the Morning returns after these messages. The business report sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing in financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. She's got Tuesday business.
Wall Street opens this morning after a quiet day of trading. The Dow snapping an 8-day winning streak. It was down 80 points. The S&P 500 index still about only 1% from a record high.
The market is in a good spot. We could see more move up from here, especially if we get, an inline CPI print this week.
Callan Family Office's Rayanne Mitrione on CNBC. The CPI print, the Consumer Price Index, that's going to be the latest on inflation, will be out Wednesday morning. GameStop shares soared 70% yesterday, sparked by possibly a meme stock trader, Roaring Kitty, who posted on Twitter, now X, for the first time in 3 years. Airlines are suing the Biden administration over its fee transparency rule. They do not want to be forced to show you the fees up front, saying it would confuse you. The Transportation Department says it will vigorously defend the airline junk fee rule. All eyes on Google today. Tech investors watching for big announcements coming out of Google I/O, a product and developers event. The UAW facing a key test in the South with a vote this week at Alabama Mercedes-Benz plants.
Here's what's going to happen in Alabama. You've got approximately 5,100 workers at 2 plants near Tuscaloosa. The significance of this is this the next domino, if you will, in the foreign automaker plants in the South that's going to fall? If they are successful at the Mercedes-Benz plants in Alabama, then take a look at Hyundai and Toyota, 2 plants where the UAW has said, look, we believe we can organize those plants. The vote goes through Thursday. We'll have the results on Friday.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau.
So, Jessica, what's all this about a cheaper meal deal at McDonald's?
McDonald's is getting all kinds of press over a new $5 value meal, except there isn't one, at least not yet. CNBC reported the company may be working on it, but franchisees may be pushing back. A lot of other news outlets just said, one is coming.
The company does kind of indicate that somebody got ahead of the story, but this is what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the people and companies that raise prices too much to own it by rolling back. And that would be the beginning of the major rollbacks, because McDonald's burgers have gone up hugely in price since 2019. So this would show that McDonald's is absolutely in sympathy and is what I'm now calling an inflation fighter.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Home Depot and Sony. Everyone's watching the Google Developers Conference. Hotel union workers and management at Virgin Hotels Las Vegas will start contract talks today after that strike last weekend.
Here's an odd one. There's a museum curator who was found with some unusual samples in his briefcase. We'll crack that wide open when America in the Morning returns. Hang with us. The White House has announced that President Biden's blocking a China-backed cryptocurrency mining firm from owning land near a U.S. nuclear base. Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports.
President Biden is blocking a Chinese-backed cryptocurrency mining firm from owning land near a U.S. nuclear missile base. The order forces the divestment of property near Wyoming's Warren Air Force Base, one of 3 housing America's ground-based nuclear missiles. The move was made in conjunction with a little-known federal agency that investigates corporate deals for national security concerns. While the order is vague on the actual concerns, the Treasury Department notes there are issues with foreign-sourced equipment potentially capable of spying, which presents a significant national security risk. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Authorities in Alabama asking for witnesses to come forward today with any video that could show who was responsible for a shooting at an outdoor party that left 3 people dead and 15 hurt. An event in the small town of Stockton, that about 30 miles from Mobile, was attended by about 1,000 people when the gunshots went off. The Baldwin County, Alabama Sheriff's Office released a statement saying that an argument caused someone to start shooting into the crowd, and police believe there could have been more than just one shooter. No suspects at this point. And a museum curator's been detained trying to leave turkey with some unusual samples in his briefcase. Correspondent Rita Foley explains.
Lorenzo Prandini is an expert on spiders at the American Museum of Natural History, based in New York. But he was stopped at the airport in Istanbul by police, accused of trying to smuggle spider and scorpion samples out of Turkey, according to media reports. Video shows officers searching hand luggage and removing plastic bags that appear to be packed with dead spiders and scorpions. Prandini tells the Associated Press the police disregarded the permits he has from the Turkish government and instead relied on the testimony of somebody who has a conflict of interest, he said. The museum's website lists Prandini as the curator of its spider, scorpion, centipede, and millipede collections. It says his research has taken him to more than 30 countries. I'm Rita Foley.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Coming up this half hour, we'll have the latest in the Donald Trump hush money trial, what's happening in the Middle East, and how the Biden administration is responding to Israel's push into Rafah.
2 men from opposite sides of the barricade on January 6th are running for Congress. I'm Jennifer King.
Washington state voters may think they're seeing triple on the ballot. I'm Katie Clark with details.
The latest on Wisconsin and ballot boxes, what their Supreme Court could decide, and gun thefts are on the rise.
Move over, Google. There's a new player in online searching. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Television's advertising upfronts are this week, giving a look at upcoming programming. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Some of us could see rain today. In fact, that will happen for some parts of the United States. As far as where, let's bring in our meteorologist. LaTroy Thornton's got specifics for us this morning. LaTroy?
Tuesday brings still another day with the risk for severe thunderstorms to parts of the southeast that will lie near the intersection of warm, moist air at the surface and a burst of energy higher up in the atmosphere, setting the stage for thunderstorms that may produce hail and localized wind gusts that could cause damage, as well as some tornadoes from coastal Alabama into southern Tennessee, through northern Florida, and even reaching far southern North Carolina into the evening hours. This comes at the tail end of the latest round of exceptional rainfall for parts of the South, with rain from Sunday to Tuesday expected to total 4 to 8 inches in some spots from east central Texas into southern Alabama and the western Florida Panhandle. Some of these areas can finally have a drier day Tuesday, with high pressure keeping rain at bay for most of the southern plains and parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. Farther to the north, a storm spinning over the Midwest brings showers and some thunder from Missouri through Ohio and much of Pennsylvania, and even through the mid-Atlantic, with spotty late-day storms also building across parts of New York State and perhaps even northern New England. However, much of the upper Midwest looks dry instead. A separate disturbance continues to organize over the northern high plains today, and this feature looks to spark showers across much of western and southern Montana, as well as northern Wyoming through the day today. On the other hand, the southern end of that storm becomes more active only into the afternoon hours, much as it did on Monday, with widely separated thunderstorms expected to pop up anywhere from southern Utah and Colorado to the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
It was a dramatic day in a New York City courtroom as former President Donald Trump attorney Michael Cohen testified against his former boss. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, Cohen's testimony included audio tape conversation with Trump and Cohen talking about Stormy Daniels. And as he's done each day after the court proceedings, the former president held court with the media.
It's really a very sad day for the country. It's sad for New York. I mean, New York, that a judge who's highly conflicted at a level that nobody's seen before. They have not come close to proving fraud or that any fraud has taken place. There's no fraud here. There's no crime here. This is 4 weeks of keeping me from not campaigning.
The infamous Access Hollywood tape is not allowed in Trump's hush money trial, but jurors are hearing about it from his former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, who said he thought it would be catastrophic coming out ahead of the 2016 election.
None of this is illegal. There's nothing illegal. It's called politics. There's nothing illegal. A lot of people say that. They're all saying that. The only person who won't say it is the judge because it's a rigged deal. He's conflicted. You got to check that out. But everybody's saying there's no crime.
Jurors seemingly looked on with rapt attention. Cohen then testifying about how after that, Stormy Daniels was the next big thing. She's the woman who said she had a sexual encounter with Trump, which she denies. Cohen told jurors Trump's words were total disaster for the campaign. Women will hate me, guys think it's cool, and that he wasn't thinking about his wife Melania when he wanted the story killed. It was all about the campaign.
And I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding. Yes. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So no. I got it.
Prosecutors showed jurors $130,000 in payments made to Daniels by Cohen to stay quiet. They say Trump falsified business records to pay that money back. Trump denies falsifying records.
We have records, and they talk about bookkeeping. The only thing down in the bookkeeping is that we call a legal expense a legal expense. We don't call it a construction expense. We don't say for concrete work. We don't say for electrical work. We pay the lawyer a legal expense.
At court in Manhattan, I'm Julie Walker.
The Biden administration calling on Israeli leaders today to do more to protect innocent Palestinians as it continues to retaliate against Hamas for the deadly October 7th attacks on Israel. But National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan making one thing clear.
We do not believe what is happening in Gaza is a genocide. We have been firmly on record rejecting that proposition.
He went on to recap how exactly we got here.
There was a ceasefire in place on October 6th. Sinwar broke it. The president has made clear the United States wants to see Hamas defeated and justice delivered to Sinwar. There can be no equivocation on that.
Well, as far as what that looks like and the impact on Palestinians as reports of famine come out of Gaza and the death toll rises in the tens of thousands.
We believe Israel can and must do more to ensure the protection and well-being of innocent civilians.
The United Nations says that more than 350,000 people have been forced to leave their homes. Sullivan responding.
The Palestinian civilians caught in the middle of this war are in hell. The death and trauma they've endured are unimaginable. Their pain and suffering are immense. No civilian should have to go through that. This is on the president's mind every day.
The U.S. State Department now responding to reports that multiple humanitarian aid convoys had been attacked by Israeli settlers. Spokesperson Vedant Patel.
It is our strong view that aid cannot and must not be interfered with. We have raised this incident with the government of Israel, and we expect them to take appropriate action.
Fighting continued in parts of Gaza Monday and a potential attack on the city of Rafah still looming. The United States urging against that. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said this week that's not the path that could end the war. And President Biden recently said he wouldn't give Israel weapons for the Rafah invasion. Sullivan doubled down on that but insisted it's a decision ultimately left up to Israeli leaders. And one man was a member of the U.S. Capitol Police on January 6th, another a former West Virginia lawmaker who served 3 months in a federal prison after being found guilty of joining rioters who stormed the Capitol and live-streamed the event. As correspondent Jennifer King reports, the two men on opposite sides of the barricades are now each running for Congress.
We can't ever
let this happen again.
Harry Dunn resigned last December from the Capitol Police. He's a Democrat among 24 candidates running for Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. Dunn says he couldn't stand to watch lawmakers he had protected go on to deny the violence that led to the deaths of some of his fellow officers.
I put country above self. The problem is, a lot of them didn't.
Republican Derek Evans, a former member of the West Virginia House of Delegates, is challenging Representative Carol Miller in Tuesday's primary.
We're in! We're in! Derek Evans is in the Capitol!
Evans was arrested 2 days after the riot at the U.S. Capitol and served 3 months in federal prison. At his sentencing, Evans apologized for his actions, but didn't about face upon leaving prison.
I had the courage to exercise my natural, God-given rights of free speech to stand up and peacefully and patriotically protest the stolen election.
He's considered a long shot, but has endorsements from pardoned felons Roger Stone and Michael Flynn. I'm Jennifer King.
There's a trend beginning to take hold in America as police warn about stolen guns. We've got specifics when America in the Morning returns. Hang with us. Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson is running for governor in the Evergreen State, but saying he's not alone is an understatement. As Katie Clark reports, the Democrats being challenged by 2 other men in the field of 3, and their names are also Bob Ferguson.
Washington State is looking to elect a new governor this year, but it may be more confusing than ever for some voters. Current state governor Jay Inslee is choosing not to run for a 4th term, leaving the race wide open to new candidates. 26 individuals have put their hat in the ring, and confusingly, there are 3 men named Bob Ferguson. Glenn Morgan is a self-titled volunteer campaign manager and conservative political activist. He's taking credit for contacting 12 Bob Fergusons and getting 2 of them on the primary ballot. He said he feels they would be better candidates than the state attorney general Bob Ferguson, who is the forerunner. A.G. Ferguson has already raised around $7 million for his campaign. At a news conference, A.G. Ferguson speaking about his feelings on the other 2 Bob Fergusons running in the governor's race.
This is so beyond the pale, so unacceptable, such a violation of election integrity that the bare minimum is to issue a statement saying this is wrong and telling these 2 individuals to withdraw.
Washington state laws state that it's a Class B felony to file candidacy with intent to confuse or mislead voters. Cease and desist letters went to the 2 Bob Fergusons. 1 dropped out of the race on Monday. I'm Katie Clark.
Late Monday night, Seattle's Fox 13 reporting that one of the 2 newly added Bob Fergusons is dropping out of the race, leaving just 2 Bob Fergusons running for governor in Washington state for now, but the other Bob Ferguson also expected to end his campaign. And in a decision that could be heading to a higher court, the Wisconsin Supreme Court signaled that they were prepared to overturn a 2-year-old decision that banned absentee ballot drop boxes and allow them for the 2024 general election just around the corner. Republicans in the Badger State have argued that ballots should be returned either in person or through the mail, while others have said they support drop boxes if there are rules on how many there are and where exactly they're located. If the Wisconsin court overturns the ban on drop boxes, as they appear to be leaning toward, local governments will be allowed to use them but not required to. Drop boxes had been used in some Wisconsin communities for years, but were embraced during the coronavirus pandemic in unprecedented numbers. A decision expected in the case by next month. Police report there's been a huge increase in the number of guns stolen from vehicles. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
The gun safety group Everytown has analyzed data from the FBI from 337 cities in 44 states and says the rate of guns stolen from vehicles has tripled over the last decade. The group says that since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, the rate of guns stolen from vehicles has gone up nearly every year, along with a major surge in weapons purchased in the U.S. And in some cases, the stolen weapons have turned up at crime scenes. Steve Dettelbach, director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, says the alarming trend underscores the need for people to safely secure their firearms to prevent them from getting into the hands of dangerous people. Nearly 122,000 guns were reported stolen in 2022, a little more than half stolen from vehicles. Donna Warder, Washington.
A Missouri man has pleaded guilty to crashing a rental van into a White House security barrier last year. In a Washington, D.C. federal courtroom, 20-year-old Asai Kandula acknowledged he had deliberately slammed into a security bollard in a failed attempt to seize power at the White House and install a dictatorship aligned with Nazi beliefs. When he was pulled from a U-Haul van at the White House barrier, Kandula was in possession of a Nazi flag. He pleaded guilty to a federal charge of willful depredation of federal property. He'll face a recommended 8 years in prison when he's sentenced on August 23rd. And real life is imitating art yet again, with one AI company creating human-like real-world responses to your questions, just like the movie Her and the hero's AI-generated girlfriend. Here's Chuck Palm with today's tech news.
OpenAI plans to announce a new artificial intelligence-powered search engine today, according to sources familiar with the matter. Big tech king Microsoft-backed OpenAI is working on a search product that potentially will compete with Alphabet's Google and with Perplexity, another well-funded AI search startup. The announcement comes just one day before Google's annual I/O conference, where the tech giant is expected to unveil a slew of new AI-related products. Industry insiders often refer to ChatGPT as another source for gathering online information. Newcomer Perplexity AI has recently received more funding to a stock valuation of over $1 billion, with investors like Jeff Bezos and NVIDIA's Jensen Huang. OpenAI still remains the king with over 100 million active monthly users when it launched in 2022. However, traffic has been on a roller coaster ride this year, and the company is under pressure to expand its user base. For more AI info, visit allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman's with us. He's got sports.
Playoff action last night, the NBA Conference semifinals. Celtics stopped the Cavaliers 109-102 to take a 3-1 lead in their best-of-7 series. Jason Tatum had a game-high 33 points, while Cleveland's Donovan Mitchell missed the game with a calf injury. Boston can lock up a spot in the Eastern Final tomorrow night at home. Thunder evened up their series with the Mavericks, coming back for a 196 victory to tie things at 2-2. Dallas led by double digits for most of the night, but OKC went on a 9-0 run late in the fourth quarter to grab the lead. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hitting 3 baskets to tie the game, then assisting on Chet Holmgren's go-ahead 3-ball. SGA led all scorers with 34 points. Game 5 in Oklahoma City tomorrow night. Stanley Cup playoff second round in the East. The Hurricanes scored 4 times in the third period to rip the Rangers 4-1 and avoid elimination. New York still leads the series 3-2 as they head back to Raleigh on Thursday. In the West, the Stars are 1 win away from the conference final after a 5-1 shellacking of the Avalanche. They take a 3-1 advantage. Wyatt Johnston scored twice, first shorthanded, then on the power play. They have a chance to clinch the series in Dallas tomorrow night. Baseball, Blue Jays nipped the Orioles 3-2 in 10 innings. Dalton Varsho robbed Ryan O'Hearn of a homer with a catch in center field, then hit one out himself to tie the game in the 8th and singled in the go-ahead run in extras. Same kind of deal for Bryson Stott in the Phillies' 5-4 10-inning win over the Mets. Stott went deep in the 9th as Philadelphia came back to tie the game, then hit the sacrifice fly in the 10th that plated the winner. Dodgers down the Giants 6-4 in 10. Will Smith with a 2-run double to win it. Kevin Newman's 2-run single in the bottom of the 9th gave the Diamondbacks a 6-5 win over the Reds. And Spencer Torkelson's 2-run homer capped the winning rally in the 8th as the Tigers trimmed the Marlins 6-5. Braves blanked the Cubs, 4 pitchers combined on a 5-hitter. Guardians shut out the Rangers, 5 hurlers with a 4-hitter. That's Tuesday Sports.
There's a case in California involving a report of a mistaken identity gone terribly wrong. We've got those details for you when America in the Morning returns after this. NBC and Fox are giving us a look at what's coming up for their networks. Kevin Carr has the details.
This week, television insiders are getting a sneak peek at what's in store for the new season. The studios are presenting their upfronts, or the season pitch, to advertisers. NBC Universal kicked things off yesterday morning. One key focus was on the Paris Olympics this summer, but the biggest buzz happened around the new trailer for the feature film adaptation of the Broadway hit Wicked.
It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
The new trailer was not live streamed, and security threatened to expel anyone in the house using their phone to record it. After its theatrical run, Wicked will premiere on Peacock's ads tier plan. Other programs teased include the Kevin Hart series Fight Night, The $1 Million Heist, the nature docuseries The Americas, narrated by Tom Hanks, and the 50th season of SNL, including a primetime special in February. Reba McEntire announced her return to season 26 of The Voice. And the studio announced Snoop Dogg and Michael Bublé would be joining the show as judges. Fox also got in the game by dropping trailers for its upcoming series, Rescue High Surf.
You want to be a lifeguard? This is the real deal.
Murder in a Small Town.
I like your dating profile. It did not say what you do.
I'm the chief of police.
Doc.
She has no recollection of the last 8 years.
And Universal Basic Guys.
You bought a chimpanzee? They're like the friendliest animals on a planet. Until they rip your face off.
I'm Kevin Carr.
This might be one of the worst cases of mistaken identity that you'll ever hear about. A man named William Woods was homeless, living on the streets in LA when he learned that someone was racking up debt using his name. When he reported his concerns to a branch manager of a bank, police were called in and he was arrested. Lisa Dwyer has that story.
The real William Woods wound up spending nearly 2 years locked up, accused of identity theft himself. He was even sent to a state mental hospital. Finally, a former high-level Iowa hospital IT worker who had assumed Woods' identity for decades pleaded guilty to 2 federal charges. That man is 58-year-old Matthew David Kierans. The 2 men apparently first met when they both worked at a hot dog cart in Albuquerque, New Mexico in the late 1980s. Over the years, the imposter married and had a child, all as Woods. He even used a genealogy website to research the real Woods' family history and used that information to fraudulently obtain a copy of Woods' Kentucky birth certificate. DNA testing eventually proved that the real Woods was in fact the real Woods. Kierans, the fake Woods, is now awaiting sentencing. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One.